Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. Man, we are talking to Trenton's own, our prodigal son, Maurice Coleman. Brother Coleman, how are you, sir?
I am phenomenal, Kevin. Thank you for having me on and spend some time with you. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, you notice I said prodigal son, so you are still our own, brother. We love you. We appreciate you. And I know every time I hear about the good work that you're doing, I just throw positive vibes and prayers out to you. But at the same time, I get upset and I say to myself, how could we have fostered that kind of energy to stay here, to be here, and to birth more Comans? Because I mean, you are doing some great stuff, brother. So how,
appreciate it.
I mean, and I guess that's a double question. I know you had to leave, but how do we foster your energy to stay here? How do we rise or raise people like you to be here to invest in their cities like you do and like you continue to do? How do we do that?
That's a great question, Kevin. Again, thank you for an opportunity to be on this morning and to share some thoughts and to learn collectively with you and our audience today. I think the first part of your question, I am and will always be from Trenton.
Yes.
The moniker of the city is Trenton makes, the world takes.
Yes.
I am 100% assured that Trenton continues to make great things.
Yes.
I think our greatest investment now, as you mentioned, is really in our human capital.
Yes.
I think the important thing to the first part of your question in being made in a city like Trenton is being able to see all of your potential and your possibility and not just the problems.
Yes.
So many times we think about, some of the challenges that we may face, growing up. But as we have spoken about before, it's that process that leads to that best end product. So growing up, in the city of Trenton, fortunate to go to the public schools there, to grow up in the public parks there, to grow up and to ride public transportation, and even for a while there to be on public assistance.
Yes.
All that shaped who I am. And it reminded me of the mantra always growing up, to the second part of your question, that we must lift as we climb.
Yes.
When I think about my experience, it was imperative for me to go and to be, quote unquote, a part of the city and a part of the fabric, the quote unquote process of being made there. But it was also imperative for me to go out there in the world and to show the world what I could do. Because it's one thing to grow up in the city. It's another thing willing to go out and acquire the skills and the knowledge that you need to round out your experience so you can become more effective in that city. So I'm proud. I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to achieve a level of success on Wall Street for 22 plus years, and to take capital and to leverage Wall Street to rebuild our street. So to move in a way that allowed me to invest not just on Wall Street in the capital markets, but to take the tools of the capital markets and to invest literally in the depth of Martin Luther King Boulevards and the Pennington Avenues and the South Brunswick, Avenue areas of cities like Trenton. So if you look at the Pennington Shopping Center, I was very fortunate in my career to invest over $7 million to rebuild the Pennington Shopping Center and to put that strip mall in the city of Trenton. Most recently, I was very fortunate in my career to invest over $30 million debt and equity to finance one of the largest new construction developments, 72 plus units on South Brunswick Avenue in the city of Trenton, creating a community where people can live, work, and play in their own community. So I'm thrilled about the fact that not only was I able to grow up there, but I was able to take what I learned to reinvest there. And in the case of that building on South Brunswick Avenue, to rename the building after the iconic Edith Savage Jennings, so to even create legacy in my own city as well.
Yes. Listen, that was a mouthful. Let's unpack that last project, right? Why did you? Well, first of all, congratulations and thank you. Why did you want to name the project after Edith Savage Jennings?
So Edith Savage Jennings is an iconic figure, from our city. She was a civil rights icon, an advisor to Dr. Martin Luther King, advocate and a leader in the NAACP. I met Ms. Savage Jennings years ago when I was serving on the advisory committee for the NAACP with my friend and mentor, Julian Bond. And I was blown away that here was this iconic figure that I had heard of and knew about. And when I met her the very first time, she did not remember me, but she was a staunch advocate for children and education in the city of Trenton. Across the street from the building that I financed that's named after her is Jefferson Elementary School, now currently the Dr. Martin Luther King Elementary School. My mother was a school teacher at that school for 42 years.
Wow.
When my mother ran into some difficulty with the Board of Education because they cut the free breakfast program in the morning, my mother took it upon herself when she was working at Woolworth in Quaker Bridge Mall to bring in a few snacks for the kids, because my mother understood that you can't teach a kid anything if the kid is hungry. So they brought my mother before the Board of Education downtown, and Edith Savage Jennings stood up for my mother. And she stood up for the children of Trenton. She talked about how many of those kids, like me at the time, were raised in Dolly homes, and how many of them came to school, and sometimes that breakfast or that lunch may have been the only meal that they had that day. And Edith Savage Jennings saw the potential in our children. She saw the potential in the community. She knew that it started with them, and instilling those values of hard work, of compassion, of accountability, of investing in yourself so you can become better for your community. And that was right in alignment with my mother's values and what she poured into me as a child. So it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer to think about this iconic figure in that way, to figure out if I am going to invest in the community and create a building where people and families and local teachers and fire department workers can now afford to live in a high-quality, sustainable building in the city of Trenton, who better than to name it after than the iconic Edith Savage Jennings?
No, I agree. I agree, and I thank you again. I want to ask a question. So we were trying to schedule this, and I think the time we were trying to schedule it, you were just wrapping up a conference with Bishop T.D. Jakes, right? Tell me about that, bro, because I was like, when you said T.D. Jakes, I was like, man, is he preaching for T.D. Jakes?
That's too funny. Yeah, no, I've been fortunate to know, and to work with Bishop. T.D. Jakes. He has been a mentor, a friend, legitimately a spiritual father
Yes.
for decades now.
Okay.
He hosts every year, and I advise everyone to attend if you can, the International Leadership Summit. This year it was held in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes.
I was fortunate to not only have the benefit of working with him and to be a presenter at the conference to talk about financial empowerment. I call it financial empowerment, Kevin, and not financial literacy,
Yes.
because we are literate. We just need to be empowered in terms of how we use our money and how we leverage our money. My mother, my father, we were part of the working poor, but we were proud and we worked hard and we were diligent and we believed in education. My father brought us a copy of the, Britannica Encyclopedia before we had a real dining room table in our house.
Once I remember that. Yes.
Once we moved from Dolly Homes to West Trenton,
yes.
We were always focused on education. My father mopped floors at the College of New Jersey, then Trenton State, so I could get access, and my sister and my siblings could get access to the library there.
Yes.
So education's always been a big emphasis. So with Bishop, it's all about educational empowerment and financial empowerment. So I've been fortunate to teach classes with him focused on saving, focused on budgeting, focused on credit management, focused on investing, focused on real estate finance, focused on charter school finance, focused on small business finance. I've been fortunate to do that with him and to speak at his leadership conference for many years now. In this particular instance, I was honored and humbled because I was fortunate to interview one of the big three, as I like to call them.
Yes.
All three of them are my friends, and I'm proud of who these women are. One is Ursula Burns, who is the CEO of Xerox. The second person is Rosalind Brewer, who is the CEO of Walgreens, Rosalind Brewer. And the third person is my dear friend, Tashonda Duckett. Let me say her name again, Tashonda Duckett.
Yes.
She is the CEO of TIAA, which used to be TIAA Crap.
Yes.
I interviewed Tashonda to talk about her journey. And one of the questions that I started off with, Kevin, was, tell me about what it feels like to be one of three Black women in America who's the CEO of a Fortune 100 company.
Yes.
And one woman's name is Ursula. A second woman's name is Rosalind, Roz.
Yes.
And you are the third, and your name is Tashonda.
Yes.
And you are a Black woman CEO of a Fortune 100 company.
Yes.
Tell me about that journey. Tell me about what does it mean to be the daughter of Otis and Rosie Brown. Tell me about what it means to create a legacy and a foundation after your parents. Tell me about what it meant to grow up, and to be a child envisioning becoming a CEO with a unique, quote unquote, ethnic name like Tashonda.
Yes.
And she walked everyone through that journey. And we talked about what it meant to have, quote unquote, work-life balance, which is more a portfolio approach. You don't really do everything 100% of the time, like your portfolio. When the market is up, you may adjust your investments, the same thing you do with your family, the same thing you do with your social engagement, the same thing you do with your work. When you got to commit to work, you commit to work. But then when things pivot in the market, you pivot your time. So once work is done, you then commit to working 100% of your time in support of your family, and you don't allow for disruptions there. So we talked about everything from financial empowerment. We talked about thinking about ways to invest now. We talked about your credit score being your adult report card. So as I tell people, Kevin, don't keep it 100 with me.
Yes.
I can't do anything with you as an executive of a financial 100 company with a 100 credit score.
Yes.
Keep it 700 with me, a 700 or better. Because if you come to see me with a credit score of 700 or better, I can help you get a student loan. I can help you buy a car. I can help you get a mortgage. But again, your credit score is your adult report card. So don't keep it 100. Keep it 700 or better.
Keep it 700. Whoa, I love that, man. Oh my God, I love that. I knew that you were going to be a breakthrough for me today. You are speaking jewels. I love it, man. I love it. So let's go all the way back to the beginning,
hmm
right? You're
hmm
you're you're at Trenton High, and you were a great athlete as well, right?
hmm hmm
So
Yeah.
so what made you want to, and you mentioned your parents, but what made you want to go more, and what made you want to PG when you did your post grad work? What made you want to do that, even though you could have gone anyway?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I was fortunate. I mean, the
Okay.
city of Trenton has loved me and embraced me as I love and embrace them.
Yes.
And I was fortunate. Again, I go back to the idea that Trenton makes the world taste. I was blessed. Trenton made me. I was
Yes.
blessed to play for Trenton Central High School at a time when we had one of the, top three, top five powerhouse high schools in the state. I was
Yes.
fortunate to play on a very good, basketball team to compete. Trenton, the city and the school taught me how to compete and taught me, how to get knocked down and to get back up. Taught
Yes.
me resilience, taught me grit, taught me perseverance. Those are all the intangibles that you need that are core values to be successful on Wall Street. But I also knew that my high school, my beloved high school, my alma mater, it lacks some resources
Yes.
because growing up in the city of Trenton, I was exposed to Princeton.
Yes.
So I would go out there and I would go and figure out a way to get into Jadwin Gym at the time at
Yeah.
Princeton University and I would hear about these schools like
Yes.
the Hun School in
Yes.
Lawrenceville and I would hear about these schools like Pennington and I was like, well, who goes to those schools and why why do they go over there? Why does their school look a lot different than my school in
Yes.
terms of resources?
Yes.
So and then I would hear that the kids who went to schools like Lawrenceville Prep and Princeton Day and others that they were going to colleges like Princeton
Yes.
and Cornell and Columbia and
Yes.
Yale, and I was like, well, what are those schools? And
Gotcha.
and how come I don't hear people from my alma mater, going to schools like that? So
Yes.
I had a conversation with my guidance counselor one day at
Okay.
Trinity High School, and very very nice woman, but she just politely said to me, while she thought I was a smart kid, and I was athletic, that kids from my high school they did not attend Ivy League institutions.
Wow.
And my Trenton Central then and now unfortunately was not ranked very high in state
Yes.
academically. So I was disturbed by that,
Okay.
and I was like, I don't want anyone to put an artificial cap on my potential. Like, who are you?
Yes.
Remember, I came from a culture of playing sports at Trenton High where we took on anybody anywhere. I
Yeah.
didn't care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, the name of the gym in the high is the alley. I was used to being in a street fight. I was,
Yes.
that's the name of the high school's gym, the
Yeah.
alley. I was used to playing against guys from Boys and Girls High and Andrew Jackson High School
Yeah.
out of New York and
Yeah.
Shabazz out of Newark and Weequahic and Camden High. You
Yes,
think I
sir.
was afraid of anything? I was like, what are you talking about? I can't succeed at one of these places. So, immediately, words of the rapper Rakim, I started my mission and left my residence,
Yes.
thinking how I could get some dead presidents, right? So that was my focus, and
Gotcha.
I said, well, I'm gonna do this not just for me, but for the we. So
Yes.
I decided that I was going to do a postgraduate year long before it was popular. So in
Gotcha.
1986, I had to, tell some friends that, I was going to go and live with, an auntie in Virginia and take what we now call a gap year.
Yes.
But I was really going up to Northfield Mount Herman prep school to train my mind the way that I was used to training my body, and that was against the best. At Trenton High, I competed against the best physically.
Yes.
Now I wanted to. If you are telling me that the best academically is at the Penningtons, the Huns, and the Lawrence, then give me a chance to compete against them.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to do. So I went to Northfield Mount Hermon in Western Massachusetts. I was fortunate to receive a scholarship there through the Dodge Transition Year program. I worked my tail off. I improved my SAT scores, if not doubled them, I believe. But I really raised my scores up. I did really well academically. And, all, I think, 9 or 11 colleges and universities, including several Ivy League schools, I applied to, I got accepted to.
Wow. Wow, brother. Thank you. Now, let me ask this question. So as a young man, was that a difficult choice for you, knowing that when a lot of your peers were just going from high school to college or not going to college at all? Was that a difficult choice for you to say, you know what, I'm going to fall back, fellas and ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to do something different? How did that make you feel? How was their response to you?
100%. It was challenging because I was a star player at Trenton High.
Yes.
And there were people who didn't understand at the time
yes.
that what I was doing, but I was committed, like I've always been committed to, even in my professional career,
yes.
of taking the road least traveled. Right. So, there's an opportunity that comes with being a trailblazer and
yes.
being a first mover. Right. So
yes.
similar to what I do in my own career today, I see opportunities where other people may see obstacles.
Yes.
That's how I create value. That's how any good entrepreneur creates value. They see what others can't see. So I saw in me what I could be long before others could see. So immediately I made that choice. I explained to a small circle of people what I was going to do.
Yes.
I had a very dear friend, Steve Livingston, who was also a really smart guy. He said to me, Reese, I want to do the same thing. So I was able to, talk him into doing it and talk the school into accepting both of us. And,
wow.
When I graduated from Northfield Mount Hermon, as the late great sports writer Jim Davis wrote, we were the first student athletes in 30 years to be accepted to an Ivy League university from Trenton High.
Wow.
So we set the standard.
Yes.
So now, people like Terrence Stokes and others can now envision going to these
yes. places,
right? Because
yes.
now it, the old, statement by Nelson Mandela, things are only impossible until they're done.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, once we accomplished it, it became the norm.
Yes.
People could see that as a possibility. So, I was fortunate. I got accepted to Princeton, Brown, Columbia, Yale. I chose Columbia.
Okay. Wow.
But now I was fortunate to be amongst the best, Kevin.
Yes.
And even when I was at Columbia, I didn't stop there. I mean, when I graduated, top of my class, and I was the National Rhodes Scholar Final.
Wow. And that I didn't know. Wow, brother.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't stop. I graduated. I won the highest award that you could win at Columbia, the Bronze Lion Trophy, which is given to the graduate of distinction. And they gave the actual lion of Columbia University back to Trenton High for the work that I did while I was at Columbia.
Oh man, that's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Wow.
So I set the standard there, and that was important. And I would say now, Kevin, life coming full circle, I'm now on the board of visitors at Columbia University. Imagine that.
Yeah,
a kid from the city of Trenton who's on the Ivy League board.
Yes.
Who's on the board of an Ivy League university.
Yes. I love it, man. I love it. Now let's just take a break for a second and let me just ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
you're at Columbia, you graduate. Did you ever think about coming back to Trenton and really laying your roots here? Or you
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. I turned down my first job. I turned down my first job on Wall Street, working at a leveraged buyout firm,
Okay.
to come back and I helped Jerry Morrison create Young Scholars Institute.
Okay. Oh man, fantastic, man. Fantastic.
I
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
I did. But again, I realized after I did that for the first 2 years,
Yes.
I realized that it was imperative for me again to show people what they can do outside of the city limits as well.
Got you. Okay. No. Because I
Yeah,
know
I did.
I know the next time that I connected with you, you
Hmm.
were beginning to do some work in Harlem.
Yes.
Share with me, the great work that you were doing in Harlem, brother, because I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah, no. So I was fortunate,
Yes.
to serve as the chairman of the largest empowerment zone in the country, which is
Yes.
located in Harlem. I was fortunate to serve as the, chairman of the Harlem, what's called the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, UMAZ.
Yes.
And I ran the business investment resource center, our small business lending and investment arm. I ran that for over a decade, and I invested over $10 million running that over a decade in businesses in Harlem.
Wow.
So over 65 or 70% of the businesses that you see on Frederick Douglass Boulevard
Yes.
in Harlem, I'm the one who financed.
Man. So you are to be credited with starting that renaissance.
100%.
Wow, brother. That's all right. There you go. Trenton makes the world take. Wow.
Yeah. And I did the same thing
Yes.
in Brooklyn,
Okay.
along Atlantic Avenue.
Yes.
So I was the chairman of True Fund Financial Services for 15 years as well. True Fund is a national CDFI. It was previously known as Seco Financial Services, now True Fund. We are one of the largest CDFIs in the country, definitely one of the largest minority-run CDFIs in the country. I was the chairman of the investment committee and the board for 15 years. So when Katrina hit back in 2005, I was the person investing the capital along clearly with my teammates and colleagues at True Fund to rebuild New Orleans and the North Ward after Katrina as well.
Wow, man. Woo. You was a heavy dude. That's all right. You was a
Yeah.
heavy dude.
So I've been doing it, and also in Harlem, just to kind of pivot back there for a second.
Yeah.
Again, foundationally believing in education, I'm the co-founder of two charter schools, one in Harlem, Capital Prep Harlem, and we
Yes.
just opened up a second one in the Bronx, Capital Prep the Bronx. I'm co-founder of those two schools with Dr. Steve Perry and Sean P. Diddy Combs.
Well, let's take another break there. So what are your obviously you have good thoughts, but what are your thoughts on chartered schools?
Opportunity.
Okay.
I don't think it's a conversation of charter versus public, either or. I think it's a conversation around and. I think that we have to create the opportunities, the best opportunities for our children. I think that we have to think about what that means in terms of, the resources and the allocation of those resources relative to supporting those children,
Yes.
supporting those families, and putting them in the best possible position for success. So people will argue that, it's taking money from the public schools, it's detracting from that, and X, Y, and Z. I've always said to people, being a product of both a public school and a private school, it really is about creating the best opportunity. Because if you are doing what you're supposed to do at a public school or at a charter school, the financing, the funding is going to find you.
Yes.
No one is going to deplete a high-performing public school from its resources. It just won't happen.
Gotcha.
But if you're not in a situation where you're producing the results, i.e. college placement, fortunately at Capital Prep, which I have to, step off that board this year, because of my other involvement, again, with Columbia and some other things that I'm doing. I've been on the board, but, for 7 years. So I've done my tenure and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's about placing these kids in the college and giving them the best opportunity. So, the difference, they're both public schools. I want to be clear about that.
Yes.
Charters and public schools are both public schools, but it really is about driving the process to get the best production.
Got you. I love it, man. I love it. Wow. Ooh, that's all. You have been busy, brother. I am so grateful that you found time to talk to me.
It's been a great run.
Yes.
And for me, it starts with real estate.
Yes.
It starts with creating a safe place for people to live, to work, to play, to grow, to learn. Right.
Yes.
If you've got shelter, if you've got something that you and I take for granted, a roof over your head that you can afford.
Yes.
So I'm a big believer in affordability. I don't believe that people should be paying more than what they earn, i.e. 50% or more of their income to have shelter.
Yes.
No, I believe that you should be able to afford where you live so you can use the rest of that discretionary income to start building assets as well. And that's the financial empowerment piece, right?
Yes. Yes.
What do I do differently with my income check now that it's tax season, right?
Yes.
What do I do differently with my credit card so I can manage my credit more effectively and I can deleverage my balance sheet, right? How do I start to invest, right? And there's so many vehicles to start investing now, right? A quick plug. I tell people all the time, the knowledge is out there, but if you don't know where to go to bettermoneyhabits.com.
Gotcha.
That's my company's, financial empowerment site, bettermoneyhabits.com. We can all practice better money habits, right?
Gotcha, yes.
So everything that you need to know is there. Again, it's about sharing the knowledge. It's not about me. It's about we. It's about developing that same concept I learned in Trenton growing up. Team. Together, everyone achieves more.
Yes.
Team. TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. We have to lean into our communities with more of a team philosophy and approach to it.
Yeah. I was gonna share a nasty joke with you, but I don't know if I want to share that now.
Go ahead.
Right. So here's my nasty joke, right? I don't know where I was one day, and I'm coming to Trenton, and I'm entering Trenton, and I see this sign that says entering historical Trenton, right? But for some reason, my eyes made it seem like the sign says entering hysterectomy. And then I thought about, all the great people that Trenton has had access to, but sometimes in the chaos that we share, we just suck the goodness out of you where you want no parts of Trenton anymore. So I hear when you say the word team, right? But I also remember what I saw that night, and seemingly you just don't know which day of the week it is. Are you entering historical Trenton where we're going to function as a team? Or are we entering historical Trenton where we're going to be the hysterectomy?
Well, that's too funny. Well, I think that there are elements that all communities need to look at, examine, and remove.
Yes.
Right. So the violence last year, Trenton had 40 plus, I think 40 homicides.
Yes.
That's an element that we have to try to address in the city of Trenton.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the world knows it. The administration and the city council don't always see eye to eye.
Yes.
The world watched it unfold. It made national headlines.
Absolutely, yeah, right. Didn't it?
It made national headlines.
Yes.
I mean, that's another element that you have to try to address.
Yes.
To your point of driving in or taking a train in, you see the number of abandoned buildings in the city of Trenton. That's another aspect of the city of Trenton that we have to address. We have to remove it and look to address it, which is why, folks like me, and I'm just one person, are trying to steer resources into the city to create that renovation. So to move from kind of, move away from things just kind of festering and environments becoming dilapidated, to seeing them as opportunities to become, institutions of hope.
Yes.
And optimism, right? So, there are definitely elements that need to be removed, right? Like anything, you get a cancerous cell, you got to go to the doctor. You got to get it removed,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Before, you get a tumor, you got to get it removed, right? So, there's surgery in all cities that need to be done, right?
Calling Dr. Mo.
But I would say that it needs to be done with a scalpel.
Yes.
It needs to be done with care.
Yes.
It needs to be done with a very thoughtful, methodical approach, where you take out those particular things that aren't beneficial to the city long term, but you restore and you build up those things that are. I mean, I think about places like Ulabala's platform,
yes,
with Big Easy downtown. I think about when one time I came into the city right before the pandemic, they were having this great kind of First Friday festival downtown,
yes,
right? I think about all the people who are there, who are supportive of the culture, right?
Yes.
So, I think there's got to be a blend. I think there's got to be, a sense of, here are the things that we have to address, right?
Yes.
Like, we got to focus on these things, but here are also the good things that we have to try to keep going as well, right?
Yes,
that we've got
absolutely.
to amplify, because it's got to be balanced, right? You can't just approach it from, a problem-oriented perspective. A lot of it has to also be from a promise-oriented perspective,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Because you got to give people a chance to see where they can go and where they can be and where they can be. It's hard to be what you can't see.
Very true. Very true. Man, maybe you should come back every 6 months. We put you in the we put you in the War Memorial Building, right? And we allow you to tell us what we can be and the opportunities that we need to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I've done it. I've been fortunate to serve as a keynote speaker for Mercer County Community College on a few different occasions, and I've talked about it. I
Yes.
talked about how be what you can't see. How initially people were concerned when the Pathmark closed in Harlem, but in partnership with the work I did with UMES and other partners up there, Harlem Chamber of Commerce and others, we put a Whole Foods in Harlem. Right?
Yes.
It's hard to be what you can't see.
Yes.
People were a little concerned about the diversity of restaurants in Harlem, and we were able to open up a Red Lobster in the heart of the city as well, and an IHOP, right?
Yes.
What an amazing feat it would be, right, to see a major franchise back downtown in the city of Trenton, right?
I would love that, man.
Yeah.
I would
mean,
love that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, the city of Trenton may be, one of the only cities, if not the only capital city on the Eastern Seaboard that has a hotel that's closed, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing feat it would be to see that hotel open up again and vibrant and thriving, right?
Yes.
Or take one of the other sites, and do the same. But it takes partnership. That's why I emphasize the idea of team, right?
Yes.
It's the idea of putting what's beneficial for the constituents first over anyone's ego.
Yes. Well, and again, you know that. I'm not going to speak too much about that, but there's a lot of ego here in Trenton, and I think not just in Trenton, but just in any city that's trying to do something better for themselves, for the constituents. And I think that if we could just get rid of the egos, man, and let people have that moment of like, you know what? Here's the thing. I am smart, but I'm not that smart. Let me just sit my ass down and allow
Right.
somebody else who's a better leader, right? But we've got so many people in this city who have a bunch of naysayers. Well, not so much naysayers, but they're naysayers, but they pump them up in the wrong way. They've got somebody thinking that they are more than what they are. And it just holds us back, right? I think that Trenton could be viable too if we were to somehow provide more opportunity
Yeah, and that's where I think you got to lean on, those relationships, right? I think you got to lean on, the city of Trenton being the capital city.
Yes.
You got to lean on what's going on in Newark, right? We
Yes.
have a Whole Foods in Newark.
Yes.
We've got, we're redeveloping the Hinchcliffe Baseball Stadium in Paterson, New Jersey, which is the home of where one of the first Negro League teams from New Jersey actually played.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
We're redeveloping that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You gotta lean on what Camden has done with his waterfront. Right?
Yes.
So part of it is, to your point of ego, you got to get out of your own way. You got to know what you don't know.
Yes.
That's knowledge. Knowledge is, and you got to be willing to go figure out how to partner with the people who do know and do know how.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's knowledge, right? You can't just elect people that you know.
Yes.
You got to at some point elect people that know how.
Absolutely. Wow.
And that's the piece, And
Yes.
again, it's there, right?
Yes.
I mean, the city of Trenton is blessed to have, two, if not three, of the major economic drivers in the city located right there.
Yes.
In terms of his office building.
Mm-hmm.
One is the Department of Community Affairs.
Yes.
Two, in South Trenton is the HMFA,
Yes.
Home Mortgage Finance Agency, right? So you got the Department of City Affairs who can provide capital, right, and support residential, mixed-use, mixed-income development as well. You got the Home Mortgage Finance Agency, which is the allocation agency for tax credits, right, throughout the
Yes.
entire state, right? And you got the state office and state office buildings, located right there in the city of Trenton. Like the governor's office is in the city of Trenton.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So how do you possibly miss out as a municipality on leveraging the resources across the state when you got everything located right there?
Well, I think we're talking about that. Sometimes it's just predicated on leadership. Can't get out of their own way.
And partnership, right?
Yeah.
And being able to leverage, your relationships in a way where you can have a conversation around new market tax credits and, supporting, economic development, which
Yes.
that's the vehicle to finance business development, in cities like Trenton. You could talk about historical tax credits and you could preserve some of the historical buildings downtown, in the city of Trenton. And clearly you could talk about, affordable housing development stuff as well.
Yeah. Now my next question is, with you having so much knowledge, you've done so much work in Trenton, does Trenton lean on you more as a consultant and say, help us, chart the course?
I'm sorry. Say that again, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No.
My AirBuds went out. Say it again. I'm sorry.
I was saying that with you having done so much for the city of Trenton, does
Mm-hmm.
anyone ever call on you and say, help us chart the course as a consultant? Help us with the vision. Help us flesh out our vision.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because I do think, and that's not unique to Trenton, right? I
Gotcha.
do think that inherent to your point, unfortunately, the city is a bit more reactive than proactive,
Gotcha.
right? So, when you're thinking about someone calling, right, like you were proactive in setting up this interview,
Yes.
right? When you're thinking about someone calling, they are in a position where they have the leisure time to be thoughtful, to think strategically, to think about an opportunity
Yes.
to build, to develop, right? That is being in a situation where you're not in crisis management mode,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and not that the city of Trenton always is, but unfortunately, The city of Trenton is, when you think about what's being published in papers and things of that nature, it oftentimes reflects what has happened. It seldom projects what can happen, right?
Very true.
And that's where you have to change. There has to be a paradigm shift to talk about how do we start having conversations that project what can happen? What should we be planning and thinking about in terms of a calendar event for Calwater Park?
Yes.
What should we be planning and thinking about in terms of bringing back Heritage Days?
Yes.
What should we be planning and thinking about in terms of volunteerism in the different wards? What should we be planning and thinking about in terms of engaging our sororities and our fraternities to get them participatory in some kind of event that galvanizes the city? How should we be thinking about and planning local involvement within our different wards that includes our schools, and leveraging the fact that we have to give some thought to repurposing and retrofitting out our libraries, many of which are closed, right?
Yes.
Like, you got to have that kind of proactive thought process in order to really move the needle instead of being reactive. So when you're reactive, you're not thinking about calling somebody like me because you're just trying to put out the fire at the end of the day, right? But when you're proactive, right?
Yes.
When you're proactive and you say, and you know this, Kevin, you've been a top athlete your whole life, right? When you're proactive, you say, look, I'm not going to the gym to heal an injury. I'm going to the gym to build my muscle so I can avoid being injured.
Absolutely. Yes. I love it, man.
So we gotta proactively take care of our bodies. We gotta proactively take care of our minds. We gotta proactively take care of our communities, and in doing that, we would take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and ask this question, right? We've got a large population here in the city, and for a lot of cities across the country, that's dealing with homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on how to solve that homeless problem?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So, the largest, I think still, definitely one of them, and I'll send you the articles on this.
Okay.
I financed in the Bronx. It's called Landing Road.
Yes.
My partners were Bowery Residency Committee, right? My good friend Muzzy Rosenblatt there. I financed in the city of New York the largest at the time fully integrated homeless shelter / apartment building ever done in the history of New York.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we have to take a comprehensive, holistic approach. So this one, and again, I'll send you the breakdown. It had over 250 single beds.
Yes.
It was also transitional housing with wraparound services that graduated people, right, from being in a single bed and getting their meals and everything on site to training them, those who could, and can manage through whatever, challenges they may have had, to giving them that level of self-sufficiency where they were able to graduate from their own sort of single bed to their own apartment.
I love it, man. So listen, when and I don't know if you did, but when you send me your bio again, all those links that you want me to have access to, put that in the bio so that when we go ahead to publish this episode, when they read your bio, they can click on any one of those links and get more information. Because, man, this is, I feel, this is fantastic, man. I feel like I've conquered the world today.
You're kind, brother.
No.
Well, thank you for your time. I mean, but homelessness is a severe issue in our society. And
absolutely,
I think we have to think about that holistically, right? We have to think about the preventative side of, what's breaking down in our society that is leading to the production of homelessness. We got to think about that. But then we also have to think about, the care side. What are the wraparound services that we can provide to help people who are homeless, right? In terms of, shelter, food and skill training, right? And how do we, to your point of where you started the conversation, how do we expand our economy where, these particular individuals can now get access to work?
Yes.
can now get access to making a contribution where they can earn, right, some
Yes.
type of, income if they can, and ideally some type of health benefits if they can, where they can become self-sufficient. But all of it starts with wraparound services,
Absolutely.
right? Again, if a person tells you, that they're starving and they're hungry, you don't go and bring them a coat. You bring them food.
Yeah. Very true, man. Listen, with the time that we have left, man, I'm going to give you this opportunity. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else we need to know about you, Brother Mo?
Oh, I appreciate it, man. No, I'm out here, like so many people, trying to have impact.
Yes.
Trying to, use, the tools that I've been given, to empower others and
Yes.
empower communities, right?
Yes.
And thinking about, the capital markets in that way, to help support, greater growth for our communities, for our, for our markets, and for our society, ideally. And again, I just want to encourage as many listeners and as many people to think about, finance, and to think about entrepreneurship, and to think about, opportunities for you to, to be engaged, in the capital markets. And I think that piece there is critical, because, what you don't know can hurt you, at times. And it's all there. So I just want to encourage, the listeners and thank them. And thank you, Kevin, for giving me an opportunity to share this morning. But there's no magic here.
Okay.
It's all there. We just have to, in the words of my father, it's all in the book. Meaning now it's all online.
Yes.
Now all we have to do is spend time learning and understanding.
Absolutely. Brother Mo, Brother Maurice, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been powerful, man.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate the opportunity. Always great to catch up with people from home. Love and appreciate you, man, and all the great work that you're doing. And, again, happy to help anytime.
All
okay?
Right. Let's talk and text later on, man.
Okay, talk to you soon, brother.
All right, peace, brother. Thanks.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.